Right, everybody, here we are. It's your old pal Emac, joined by a new face here, another Eric, if you will. Thank goodness I go by Emac here because we don't want any confusion. Of course, I'm the old guy, so you guys all know I'm the old guy on the left. The new guy on the right here is Eric. He's going to be helping us out. If you didn't see him there on the Celebrity Draft Show, you'll be seeing more of him on Sunday nights working the show down here with me. Eric, give yourself a little bit of an intro here and take her away.
Yeah. Thanks, EMAC. First of all, good evening, everyone. Week one, already underway. It's been a crazy start to the season here. As EMAC mentioned, myself, Eric Boyovich, I'll be your host here Sunday evenings for our live before lock showdown slate. We'll be covering Fanduel, Draftkings, all the up to the minute breaking news, injuries, updates, and getting you ready for tonight's showdown slate. We'll be going in depth each position, both teams, answering your questions along the way. So feel free to send those in to us. And excited to be a part of the group, and work with you, the two Erics today. So looking forward to it, and appreciate everyone watching tonight.
Absolutely, these are always kind of fun. I just realized that somehow I played $100 contest. I signed up for one of them over here on DraftKings, and I am bouncing right on, like literally right on the cut line with Larry Fitzgerald left because I played my cash game lineup in this. Why I did that? Because I got distracted this morning chasing overlay on a variety of sites, including one Fantasydraft, the sponsor of our show. You guys know that they have of course, the rake free contest. Now, they don't have single game slate, but they do sponsor all of our live before locks. But the reminder is if you have not yet signed up there, when you use the promo code OSMO, you will get one free week of $1,000 of play that is rake free. Now, otherwise, you have a little subscription service that you pay for, and it's like the phone. You can upgrade at any time. So you can start out at the $5 a month plan, and you can work your way up if you need to. The other thing you're going to want to remember is when you make a deposit, they are going to charge you 3% of a transaction fee. Now, the thing you want to understand about that is that's not a bad thing, because 3% on that, plus depending on your volume, maybe a tenth of a percent based upon your monthly subscription fee, and that's it. So wait for it. The other sites are charging 16%. FanDuel had one today that was 25% rake and management fee. That's way higher than 3%. So don't get turned off by that immediately. It's all about math. Now enough with the math. Let's talk football. Eric, the world is your oyster. Let's check a few things out here.
Yeah. Let's get right on to it, EMAC. Exciting game tonight, week one. Two storied franchises: New England Patriots hosting Pittsburgh Steelers, Super Bowl champs. Pittsburgh Steelers, a lot of changes in the offseason. We know the Antonio Brown saga, which has dominated the news over the last, seems like, month, finally found its resolution here this week. I wish he was playing in tonight's game. It'd be great, certainly from a ratings perspective. But he's not. But there's a lot of guys that are. So we want to break down and get in depth on who is playing and who's not, and give you that best advice. So, EMAC, without further ado, I think we probably jump right into it. Taking it from the top, is look at some of your rankings and saw your article on the Osmo site earlier. Week one, it's always tough to figure out where things are going to land, who's going to be that breakout player. But as you just kind of look at tonight's matchup, taking it from the top, who do you love? Who are you really excited about? What are some of your kind of, hey, this person needs to be in your lineup? Who are your top picks?
All right, so I just dropped the link to the article in chat. That's free. We're going to have live articles. Live shows for almost every showdown slate, and we're going to have articles that will be free in front of the paywall for the majority of them as well. I say the majority because tomorrow night is a little tricky, where it's actually two NFL games. The showdown slate technically is the late slate, but they're doing showdown for both and a primetime slate. So we're actually going to do an earlier show tomorrow on Friday. That will be myself and Nolan Kelly will be breaking down both those games. The articles are kind of fun to write. They're very much in detail. It breaks down by position each team, and then at the bottom it talks about ranking all of the viable players. So two I want to call out tonight that are not active are Harris, the rookie running back for New England, as well as Demarius Thomas, who'd been dealing with a little bit of a sore ankle. So those guys are out. Now you're going to want to make sure if you've done your lineups, done projections, put a zero in there for them because they'll sneak in because they were okay point per dollar values because they were so cheap. Why were they cheap? Well, there's a pretty good chance they weren't going to play. So they're definitely out. The guy I like the most is going to be Tom Brady. Now, I'm not alone here. It pains me to say this. I grew up as a Seahawks fan and a 49er fan until they both were in the NFC and I had to stop rooting for the 49ers. But I was a huge Joe Montana fan. I thought he was the greatest of all time. You know what? Tom Brady is the greatest of all time. I tip my cap to him. Different era, different all that. But good God, he's 42 years old and still doing this at a high level. Ben Roethlisberger, his counterpart, feels like he's been around forever. He has. It's his 17th year, and he's 37. So this is just—it's insane that these guys are going against each other. But Brady is going to be like that, the master at the controls. Both these guys were ranked on most projection sites, taking into account all 32 quarterbacks that are playing in Week 1. They were both kind of in that 18 to 23 range. So depending on the side, that was bouncing between PPR, et cetera. But that's kind of about where they are. So they're outside. Both of them were even outside startable in season long, which is something we're not expecting when you got two Hall of Famers like this. But they are the only two quarterbacks in this game tonight, so that makes them very, very valuable and important. Brady's probably going to be on about 85 to 90% of all rosters, and my guess is that Roethlisberger will probably be on about 75. We do have the popularity projections here on Osmo for the single game slates. We also project the captain or the MVP slot on both the sites, which is the bonus scoring slot, so that's important as well. The number one guy that's popping up is Juju. So that's a bit of a surprise. So I'm just giving you the top three. So as you guys are building, you're going to put your captains in. Those are probably going to be your top three captains. Maybe put in a Julian Edelman, James Conner, etc. Now let's kind of talk, rein it back in, and we'll look here at the game. So nothing has really changed on the Patriots other than no Rob Gronkowski, and that's last year. You know, he was an amazing run blocking sixth lineman, except when they needed him to turn it on in rare spots. So he wasn't a big factor last year. This year's tight ends, they're a mess. I don't even really know what to do with either one of them. It's Izzo and I can't think of the other guy's name, but they're falling down at the bottom of my list. But
Matt,
the wide pardon?
I believe Matt Lacoste is the name that you're looking
Lacoste. Was he former Denver Bronco, I think, if I'm remembering correctly?
That sounds right, yeah. But definitely the bottom of most depth charts.
Yes. So the deal with those guys is they're really not going to be in our plans. However, on DraftKings, the savings on them is so extreme. This is your quote punt position, which you don't get all that often on these showdown slates. Now, the wide receivers, this is where there's a little bit of a mixed bag. You have some familiar faces. Edelman is obviously Tom Terrific's favorite target here. You have Philip Dorsett, who's seemingly been around forever, and then you have Josh Gordon, who has gone through his own trials and tribulations before being reinstated this year. So those would be the guys he's going to go to. The question mark you have with Gordon is, how often is Brady going to throw deep? The question you have with Philip Dorsett is, yeah, he's been with them forever and he's been in the league forever, but he's never really done anything. So now we're back to Edelman as probably his favorite target. We've heard that Sony Michel is going to be more active in the passing game. Why are we really going to worry about that or believe it other than they don't want to, obviously when this guy's in, it's running, and when this guy's in, it's passing. Well, that's not the case with the Patriots here because you've got Michelle, who may be a little more active. I'm not going to buy it because I'm really a big fan of James White. By the way, James White last year, 5 rushing touchdowns. Sony Michel, 6. Just putting that out there. So these guys are capable in both parts of the game. So I think it's a little bit of mix or match. DraftKings, I will give the nod to James White because it's full PPR. I think I'm going to say, I had him kind of as a tie on Fanduel. I think I'm going to go with Michelle as the slide edge on Fanduel. So that kind of encompasses the key positions there. Defense, yeah. But Roethlisberger really doesn't get sacked and really doesn't turn the ball over. So you're hoping for a lucky touchdown. in that aspect. Any thoughts that you have here, Eric, from Pittsburgh, or not from Pittsburgh, from the Patriots? Because you've been watching a lot of football.
Yeah, I've been watching. Just taking a step back, you touched on a few key players there, and as I look at some of our ownership projections, taking it from the top, Juju, if you don't mind, we jump back there, leading as far as ownership percentage in our projections. If you've watched football, and I know our viewers don't miss a game. Over the last few years, the Patriots, Bill Belichick, they are known for taking away the opposition's biggest weapon. Going into tonight's game, I assume that's Juju Smith-Schuster. As just a fan, I do find it interesting that he is the most owned, knowing that New England's probably going to do everything they can in their control to slow him down, if not stop him. We know he's going to get targets, but I did find that interesting, knowing that New England always focuses on that. On the New England side of the ball, we know Gronk's out. We know that those are big shoes to fill. He's got a safety blanket in Edelman, who you've mentioned, who seems to be consistent year over year. Who's going to be that next guy? Is Josh Gordon going to step up? I don't know. We'll see. Played well, in the last year when he was around. But we'll see. We'll see where it goes this year. I feel confident in the Sony Michel, buzz that's been building. I know New England has invested in their offensive line as of recent, some trades and acquisitions to kind of beef up and bolster that New England offensive line. And I heard someone talking earlier today about how New England is trying to get back to how they used to win, playing defense, running the ball, those sorts of things. While they do have weapons on the outside, I'm looking forward to seeing them play some smash mouth football tonight, control the clock, control the pace of play, and can try to grind out a win that way. So that's where I'm at. But taking a step next time by position, if you don't mind, EMAC. Questions are flying in from a lot of folks here as I'm looking. Questions around captaincy. We've talked about ownership percentage. Let's jump to that. A lot of questions. Who do we put in as our captain? It's such a big decision that you have to make. As you look at ownership, as you look at captain percentage, and how you look this night's game going to go. If you're building your lineup tonight, who's your captain? Who do you like?
Right. I just put together my little file here. And by the way, for those that tuned in on Monday, Thursday, actually did lose all $114 that I put in. None of it came back out. Oh my god, that was so embarrassing. But I was having some file upload issues on the show, and I got a little carried away. So here's where I'm standing right now. Let's see, for my captain spots. Now I'm just playing on Draftkings at the moment. It's too hard to do all the shows. I've got to make some primetime lineups here, and we've got this here. So I'm just playing DK just to make it a little simpler for me. But I've got 20% Tom Brady. I have 20% Juju. I have 7% Roethlisberger, 12% Connor, 14% Edelman, and then I purposefully chose to get 10% of each White and Josh Gordon, and I only have 1% of Sony Michel. That makes me a little bit nervous. Maybe I should make a couple Sony Michel in the captain lineups spots, but that's where you start to get the risks. So two things here. You don't want to be spread too thin because then you never really get the right players together. Conversely, you really don't want to be too locked into where all of the popular plays are or the chalk. Now you can play, if you wanted to, play the three most popular players, Juju, Ben Roethlisberger, and Tom Brady, but I probably wouldn't enter that contest in the giant large field tournament because there's no differentiation there. You need to best, you've got to get a top 15 or top 12% finish just to double your money. Yeah, that doesn't sound very fun. And if you are at the top, you're probably going to share the prize with, 50 of your favorite friends. So the one thing you're going to want to look at here is you can play the triple ups. You can play the 5-man leagues, the 10-man leagues. Head-to-heads, that was kind of a little boring. But triple ups are kind of exciting. And triple ups, I mean by 3-man. Now, I wouldn't put your lineup in a whole bunch of the mass multi-entry double ups or triple ups. I would put them in the single entry if you're doing that. But I prefer the three mans and the five mans, and just try to find one or two names you don't recognize and then play them. And that's the way you go. And don't worry if somebody has a badge or not. That those badges came out like 4 or 5 years ago. Damn near everybody has a badge at this point. And my thought is, if somebody doesn't have a badge, they've forgotten their original login and somehow have a new account. So there we are.
Yes, yeah, you don't want to get too nervous by something like that you see. So staying on the captain percentage, I know there's some questions flying in about that.
Okay.
You talked about who you have on the upper echelon.
Mm-hmm.
If someone was looking to go out on a limb tonight, deeper sleeper, you want to throw them in that captain spot because you don't think anybody else is going to have them, but you see them having potentially a big game, right? The ball's got to bounce the right way. Who might that deep sleeper be from a captain percentage?
All right, this is not for the faint of heart, but I actually have Ryan Izzo as a captain. Now, here's why. Would not be playing him on Fanduel. Fanduel, you don't have to worry. You get to choose who your captain is, and everybody costs the same. Or I think it's the MVP there, and everybody costs the same amount of money. On Draftkings, whomever you designate as your captain costs 50% more, and they also their score is multiplied by 1.5. So you have this little bit of a bonus. So by playing Ryan Izzo, who's like, I think, what is he, like $400 or $500 once he's in the captain spot, I can pick everybody else I want. So that particular team where he is the captain has James White, Julian Edelman, Ben Roethlisberger, James Conner, and Juju Smith-Schuster. Wow! I got everybody I wanted basically, but Tom Brady. I still have Ryan Izzo. I still need those other guys to do well, but that's what you can get if you do this. So when you get these rare punt guys, you will see people go that route. Now, recently we were burned with Adam Shaheen on Thursday night, where he was similarly very discounted. Trey Burton was out for the game or inactive, and a lot of people went with Shaheen, and he just didn't do anything. You know what? Nobody did anything on that game. I mean, it was 10-7. It was just an ugly game. Who knew Tariq Cohen was going to be a wide receiver this year? I certainly didn't. But we don't know what's going to happen. But maybe people felt a little burned by that episode. And I mean, Ryan Izzo. All I can think of is like Jay-Z songs and Izzo, the coach of the
Tom Izzo,
the Spartans. So
yeah, I'm sure a lot of people are too familiar with them. But yeah, sometimes you gotta switch it up. You want to try to find one of those deep sleepers that can hopefully pay dividends for you, and to your point, allows you to load up on some of those big names that you want in your lineup. It's tough to afford them unless you go with a deep sleeper like that.
Let me see here. All right. Did we hit everything? So the interesting thing about the Vance McDonald, I think, is intriguing on the full point PPR site, DraftKings, just because if he gets 4 catches for 35 yards, that's an okay score. On FanDuel, that's like just a non-starter, but he's kind of equal to where the kickers are. And on FanDuel, the kickers are more expensive. I don't really know that I'd want to go to the kickers. But as we saw, anything can happen. I mean, good God, the Super Bowl was very low scoring. It ended up being the guy who won the $1 million or shared with somebody had like 3 running backs, a kicker. It was just like, it was out of control. So weird stuff can happen. We don't know what's going to happen tonight. But this doesn't feel like a game for kickers. And remember, Heinz Field is one. Oh, sorry, this is in Foxborough. My bad.
Yep.
I was going to say, file that one away. Heinz Field, a little bit of the swirling winds like the old school Meadowlands, but not Foxborough until it gets cold.
Well, even on that note, both these teams like to go for it on 4th down. So if they're in that, 40 to 50 yard field goal range, it's 4th and short. I wouldn't be surprised to see both teams taking a crack at it, trying to pick up that 1st down. So you're saying no kickers tonight. I understand these two teams, if we look back at last year, they played a little less than 9 months ago, and it was a 17-10 grinded out ball game where kickers probably had a greater impact for tonight, week 1. Sounds like we're not too high in the kickers.
Yeah. And the kickers are okay on DraftKings. You're getting a significant discount there. You're not getting that on FanDuel. Now, the other thing that I do want to point out, Eric, is there will be slates this year starting about week 4 or 5 when we get Thursday night football and the teams are beat up and they played 3.5 days ago and it's Tennessee who knows where their exotic smash mouth football came to fruition today after everybody's been gone. But it'll be them in Baltimore. Okay, then we're going to talk about both kickers. Then you might even see one of the kickers crest into the top 6 or 7 on my rankings. That's not the type of game we're seeing today, but it definitely can happen, and there will be days when you might see the kicker as the cover boy on the article.
Yeah. What about defenses? I mentioned last time these two teams played, it was 17-10, more of a defensive ball game. There's plenty of weapons on both sides of the ball for offensively. Do you have any defenses in your lineups tonight? Any recommendations there? Both seem to be kind of middle of the pack. But where do you stand on that?
Yeah, these just really aren't the defenses. So Brady last year was sacked 21 times and he had 11 interceptions. So that's like having 2 events per game where the defense could get a turnover or a sack. 2. That's not very good. Now, Pittsburgh, or Blitzburg, as they like to call themselves, did tie the Chiefs with 52 sacks last year to lead the league, but they only had 15 takeaways. So between Brady having done this forever and being the best at just like, yeah, I'm not taking a sack, I'm going to throw it away and we're going to come back at you on the next play, I don't see the opportunities there. On the other side, we have Roethlisberger was sacked 24 times, so 1.5 times per game. And the Patriots did have 28 takeaways last year, so almost 2 per game. So even if we gave them 2.7 opportunities to do something, is that enough? I don't know. So now we're hoping for a touchdown, and those are hard to come by.
Yep. Yep. Without jumping around too much, I did want to go back to the tight end Vance McDonald for Pittsburgh that you mentioned. Okay. Looks like he's projected ownership right now is around 37%, 40% altogether. Knowing that the New England Patriots are likely going to try to take away Juju, do you see a big night from a guy like Vance McDonald tonight?
He is the guy I think is going to be next up. He was there with Roethlisberger last year. We don't know what's going on with Moncrief or with Washington, meaning from a trust or a production. Sure. Had some 2 good games, I believe, in the preseason, but that was with Rudolph and Dobbs or whoever the other backup quarterback is.
Who they played against, right? Second stringers likely.
Yeah, it was like not even like wasn't even close to being the first stringers. And Moncrief was getting more of the first string snaps, but Connor's ahead of him, Vance is going to be ahead of him, and then Juju's going to be ahead of him. So he's number 4. What do we want to do? Now, he's been around forever. I'm blanking on who he played for last year, but he started out his career in Indy. So he played, 5-6 years there? And then I think he played for somebody else last year. And then now here he is with Pittsburgh. When's the magic going to happen? When's it all going to work out? I don't know. So it makes it a little tough to trust those guys. But again, we saw Lamar Jackson do phenomenal things today, and I would have never, in my range of outcomes, him getting 5 touchdowns and over 300 passing yards. No, that was not in my range of outcomes for him.
Yeah, incredible. Folks that saw that earlier today, I don't think anybody in their right mind saw that coming. Certainly not the Miami Dolphins, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, they saw it not once, not twice, not 3 times, 5 times. They saw it.
Incredible. I know.
Although I think Robert Griffin had one of them. So
he did. Yeah, good for RG3. I think anybody that's a football fan, saw him rise, saw him fall, and everybody roots for a rebound. Everybody roots for a comeback. So even though it was in mop-up duty, happy to see him, make a contribution today for the Ravens. We're about 25 minutes or so away from kickoff. We've covered a few different topics. We covered some captains. So I want to go down position by position, if that's okay for you, EMAC. Taking it from the top, we got some questions coming in, so I want to address those. Picking a QB tonight. Most important position on the field. We talked about Brady. We talked about Roethlisberger. Veterans, great at what they do. Different weapons than what they had last year. They both lost safety blankets. if you're picking one of these QBs tonight, you have one lineup. Who you picking, Brady or Roethlisberger?
All right, so I'm actually going to pick Brady here, and I don't even care if I have Roethlisberger on my team if I was only making one or two. Now I'm going to explain why here, because that's not as bold of a statement. So you could still have Juju Smith have a good game, 100 yards, 8 catches, and a touchdown, maybe even 2 touchdowns. And if Roethlisberger has 240 yards and his 2 touchdowns went to Juju, Roethlisberger is a non-entity at this point. Uh, Similarly, you could say same thing about Vance McDonald. So I don't think Roethlisberger is as big of uh, of a per, of a worry for me as he once was. The home road splits. If anybody's telling you tonight or you hear stuff about the home road splits, I just want you to file this away. 2013, damn near even. Last year, damn near even. The 4 seasons in between, oh yeah, they were big and they happened a lot. But could that have just been noise? Because literally they weren't an issue last year, and prior to his career, it wasn't. So I almost want to think, maybe it was a sleep thing, a travel thing, whatever thing. I don't think that's really in play anymore. I think his skill set has declined enough, and he no longer has Antonio Brown. That it's going to impact him more than if he's at home or on the road, in my opinion. For this first game, he and Brady are both coming in fresh. They haven't been banged up. They didn't play in the they played sparingly in the preseason, if they really did at all. So this is the time for them to be relatively fresh. I just don't know that Roethlisberger really has it anymore. And if they scheme to take out Juju, which we're speculating they might, who's he going to throw it to? And how is he going to get 300 yards and 2 touchdowns? I I don't think it's going to happen. So I want him when he's with Juju. I didn't set him as a must in my rules. If Juju captain, I said you got to play Roethlisberger, and then I made a couple without him just because, like as I said. But then I also said I don't care if he's with any of my other receivers or not. It doesn't matter to me. So I'm not getting as nearly as much of him as I would have thought. But that was intentional on my part. I'm telling a story. What do you think the game flow is going to be, and how can you make that work with your players? If you're just pushing a button and letting the players go willy nilly, you're not going to have the right combination of players. Everybody's next level now. You got to think a little more into this. So if it's a slugfest, we want the kickers. If it's a run of the mill game, we want the quarterbacks. If it's a game with two good defenses, we probably want the running backs. You got to figure out what that is. What is tonight? I don't know, damn it, because you never know what Bill Belichick's going to do. This is the James Devlin. He had 4 touchdowns last year on 6 carries. And in one game, he had 2. So there you go. Is that going to happen tonight? I don't know.
Yeah, it's almost like Bill Belichick wakes up in the morning and he thinks to himself, how can I screw over fantasy owners today? And then he acts upon it, right? So, we love them. We love watching the Patriots, but as fantasy, fans, you're not always ideal, to have Patriots and support Bill Belichick. We've talked about QBs now. We've talked about our concerns around Roethlisberger. Jumping to the next position, deep breakdown, the running back spot. James Conner is our is projected highest ownership. Obvious reasons he's going to get the bulk of, if not 85, 90% of the carries. I think you mentioned in your article about an 80-20 split with Jalen Samuels. Running backs in this game, we touched on White, we touched on Tony Michel. Who do you love? Who don't you love? Are you starting Rex Burkhead anywhere? What do you think about the running backs going into it?
There was a very skosh, shall we say, of Rex Burkhead. Lest we forget, people were drafting him in season-long in best ball just last year. What's really changed that much? Well, Sony Michel turns out to be a little bit better. Burkhead coming off a bit of an injury, but Burkhead's a guy that he's like the perfect blend between James White and Sony Michel. He can run between the tackles if he needs to, all that time. And then on the other side, he's an okay pass catcher. They've used him as a slot receiver before when they were running shorthanded, so he can kind of do it all. But he gets hurt all the time, so he's no longer like full 100%. I don't think he's as healthy as he's going to be right now for the season, but that's no longer what he was last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, etc. I don't think it's the craziest thing. I mean, literally, there are there are four running backs that if you told me any one of them got 2 touchdowns, including James Devlin in this game, I would not bat an eye.
Yep. Yep. Makes it for fun selections, doesn't it? Yeah,
Well, fun's not the word I would use, but hey.
sure. Sure. Challenging, fun. That's what it's all about. It's not supposed to be easy. Otherwise, everybody would do it. That's why you go to awesemo.com and leverage, the expertise there. So we've talked on the running back position, and we've kind of glazed over the wide receiver position. But if you don't mind, let's kind of go a little bit more in depth. We know the AB situation, right? Juju stepping in as the number one. I'm interested to see how he does in that role. It's easy to put up numbers when you have someone like Antonio Brown opposite of you, getting double teams, opens things up a lot for you. Now, while he did have more receptions last year, we know he can, manage the workload. Everybody's focus will be on him now. His name is very much known throughout the NFL. We know he's a playmaker. Second year, is where he's looking to make that jump. So you look at the wide receiver position, people like Juju. We talked about, Dante Moncrief, stepping in his first year in Pittsburgh. Who do you love from the wide receiver position, and who is anybody that you don't like for tonight's matchup?
Um, James Washington is probably my least favorite. Oh, I didn't mention Switzer. So Switzer is going to be returning both punts and kicks, it sounds like. He also is, I guess, technically now the number 4 receiver. We saw him last year get a little bit of time in the backfield, kind of as a decoy of sorts, or a wait a second, they had 5 empty backfield and 5 receivers. Now this guy's in the backfield. What are they going to do? He's kind of one of those guys that they just kind of do a little bit of everything. I don't think he's going to do very well, but we just need him to catch lightning in a bottle this week. So I think that Switzer would be a deep stretch. I don't even know if I got him on any of my teams, truthfully. But he was the one guy I thought, all right, if there was some weirdness that was going to happen, it would be him. Initially, it would have been Demaryius Thomas, but of course he was inactive. On the other end of the spectrum, I think Edelman's probably the best, and I think Juju's number 2. But if he gets 12 targets and comes out of this with 6 catches and 60 yards, I wouldn't be surprised either. Got the volume, just didn't get the results because he's going to be double teamed with rolling coverage towards him, if not just outright triple teamed. So that'll be the interesting thing to see.
Yep. And then after Edelman, are you feeling Josh Gordon tonight, or would you rather save the money, spend it elsewhere, and maybe invest in someone like a Philip Dorsett?
I would go with Josh Gordon just because he does have that lightning in a bottle upside, and there is no Chris Hogan. That's Hogan never really put it all together, but he was a deep threat a little bit when healthy and was a decent set of hands. He just could never get it all together at the same time. Gordon, who knows what's going to happen, but maybe he feels slightly inspired because there's another receiver, prima donna, that's going to be standing on his corner very shortly, and he needs to kind of use this opportunity to remind Tom Brady that, hey, I was here first.
Yeah. Don't forget about me next week and the week after, right? This is his opportunity to kind of build some rapport with him week 1 in this season, and interesting to see how that plays out. So not big on Dorsett. Any sleeper wideouts? You mentioned Switzer. Anybody else out there that you think not too high in James Washington? I think anybody else that we missed from a wide receiver perspective. Maybe, hey, this is someone that might slide in, sneak in a touchdown, and maybe someone you buy low on.
Um, I think it would be Philip Dorsett, who I did play in the playoffs, and I for that very exact same reason. Which, God, this is almost like a playoff slate because there's just one game. But I think ultimately I would go with him. No good rhyme, no reason. You'll notice I'm really not mentioning Washington and Moncrief at all.
Yeah, I'll stop bringing them up.
Trying to avoid saying their name. If I say their name 3 times, will they appear behind me and try to cut my head off? I don't know.
All right. Well, that's it for wide receivers. We've touched on a couple tight ends, but let's just kind of get a little more in depth here. Tight end position for Pittsburgh in years past have been guys like Jesse James, who just haven't quite seemed to take that leap into every week relevance. We touched on Vance McDonald, the potential output that he might see. If you had to pick a New England tight end, is it Lacoste? Is it Izzo? You talked Izzo might be one of your deep captains, or is it just flip a coin? Who knows? When they get down to the goal lines, play action. Who's Tom going to dump it to for that 1 yard toss?
Yeah, I literally think anything goes. For me, it just happened to be Izzo because I saw his name pop up there. I think we're projecting him for like 4 points, which is like 2 catches and 20 yards on DK. So not much, but at his $400 price tag, that's gonna get him into the lineups.
Yep.
I would not play him on the. I would let me rephrase that. I would only play him on the showdown. He wouldn't even come near my lineups on this 3 game slate that I'm trying to make my lineups for.
Okay. All right. Putting together the last minute lineups. We are at not quite 7:10, so we're approaching kickoff for Sunday Night Football tonight. I don't know what the entrance song is going to be. I don't know what you. This is a little off topic here, but I always love their Sunday Night Football entrance song. Always an exciting part of it. I know I don't know if Jay-Z is going to have any say in the matter now, but looking forward to Sunday Night Football tonight, Week 1. Patriots hosting the Steelers. Is Antonio Brown going to be in attendance? Is he going to be watching from a box somewhere?
Oh God! Somehow he's going to be in the Goodyear blimp, is my guess.
Yeah, that's actually a good point.
I'm only barely saying that tongue in cheek.
Yeah, either that, or I'm interested to see him with like a mink coat on, with Robert Kraft high fiving, Tom Brady touchdowns. But I'm sure he'll be talked about quite a bit, and I'm sure the Patriots are looking forward to bringing him on board next week. More questions flying in. We talked about captains, kickers. If somebody is loading up on QBs, perhaps spending money with some of the bigger names, and you had to play a kicker tonight, EMAC. Holding the gun to your head, is it Chris Boswell? Is it Steven Gostkowski? They're both coming in at about projected about 50% of lineups are showing Gostkowski or Boswell just under 45. But for a kicker, are you surprised at those percentages?
No, I generally default to the home kicker, so Gostkowski would be the guy.
Yep. And Boswell seems like he's been there forever, but Pittsburgh never seems to have a great kicking game. And to your point, Heinz Field probably plays a role in that. But weather seems to be clear tonight in New England. No rain, no wind. So if you are playing a kicker, it should be pretty safe there. Lastly, we did touch on defense. I just want to circle back on it. If you had to play a defense tonight, again, these two teams played 17-10 back in December of 2018. Some weapons missing on both sides. Who knows? We don't know what's going to happen. Maybe tonight is another 17-10 or 13-10 type ball game. Is it New England's defense because they're at home and Big Ben once in a while likes to get a little, gunslinger-esque? If you had to pick defense tonight, who is it?
It's definitely got to be. If I'm picking, amongst them, it would be New England.
Okay, all right. So again, more questions flying in here. We're talking about Switzer or Dorsett. Question got posed. You talked about being a sleeper there. Don't seem to be super high on Dorsett. We know that the Patriots spread the ball around. If you had to pick one or the other, who is it?
I think I would go with Switzer just because it sounds like, again, that he's returning kicks and punts. And I don't know if they're going to put 2 guys back there. Not all the teams put 2 guys back there anymore on kickoffs, but it sounds like he's going to be the guy.
Okay. All right.
And I lied. I've got Ryan Izzo on one of 20 teams that I'm going to be playing on the primetime slate.
There it is. Ryan to the Izzo.
Yes.
All right, putting together last-minute lineups here. We're about 10 minutes from kickoff. Players warming up, getting ready for tonight's matchup. Projections, again, still looking like Juju is at the top. He's in almost 90% of lineups right now. So high play there. Maybe there's some value in some of those lower cost guys. What else are you thinking for tonight, EMAC? What are you excited about? What concerns you? You're putting your lineup together tonight, is there one position in particular that you're uncertain about? What's got you worried going into tonight's matchup if you're putting together your last minute lineups here a few minutes ago?
I think that today it was just an excellent reminder that we don't know what's going to happen. Much as we would like to think that we do, we just don't when it comes to the NFL. And that was a good reminder. We were insulated all this time in looking at the drafts and best balls, and then we can pick who we want to start and everything. And just think back to today of how many things went sideways. Think of how many guys got hurt. Um, you know, uh, Hill got hurt, so he's going to be out for a couple weeks.
Yep.
Williams got hurt for San Diego. There's just a variety. We had some random games that, boy, the 49ers got frisky there against Tampa. Fire like we thought that they were going to. We looked at. Pardon?
The Cleveland Browns, everybody's biggest pick. I don't know how many people had them going to the playoffs. Some people have picked them to go to the Super Bowl. Everybody all in on the Cleveland Browns bandwagon, which quickly got deflated today by what we say, mediocre Tennessee Titans, whose offense looked like, Joe Montana, 49ers offense today.
You go back and you look at that box score, you're like, guys, you're really not going to replicate this. Derrick Henry had Derrick Henry had a touchdown receiving, and Mariota's arm's going to fall off at some point. It's just, I don't know. So that would be my thing, is we aren't confident. You can be confident, and then you end up with egg on your face so quickly. That was the thing that rattled me more today than anything else. And I think it's because there are only 17 weeks plus 3 playoff weeks, and then you play all the little slates and stuff. But you've got 50 or so good 2 or 3 game or better slates. Baseball, oh my God, that's like 3 weeks. And so baseball, coming from that, you have just so much. It's so much more forgiving, and yes, it's variance, but you're always in it because all you need is some guy to hit a home run in the ninth, and you're going to do okay. I mean, I was killing it today, and I had an awesome team put together, and it had all the New York Giants on it left. Well, they weren't doing me any favors because they didn't need to do anything against Dallas at the end. So I watched all massive amounts of player minutes remaining, and I was going backwards because the other players were doing stuff, and mine they didn't need them to. So that there's stuff like that. When all your Cowboys are like, yeah, we're mailing this one in, we've got this in hand. What are you going to do? So there are just so many things out of your control, and that I think was more jarring today for me than it has been in a while on a week one.
Yeah, that's a good point. You talked about injuries. It's such a big part of every NFL season. One player for tonight's matchup that went down late in 2018, that was James Conner. It allowed for someone like a Jalen Samuels to step up late in the year. Crazy story. I actually won a season-long league last year, and Jalen Samuels was my starting running back because he was dual position last year in season-long. So he's near and dear to my heart for that reason. Do you see Pittsburgh potentially giving him maybe a larger work share tonight because of some success in the last year, because they want to keep things kind of fresh later in the year, knowing that he had so many carries earlier on, plus all the catches that he had? Did that, wear him down to lead to the injury late in the year? So is Samuels maybe a sneaky pick for people that are throwing in last minute lineups here? I don't know what your thoughts are around him.
I don't mind it. And you have a good point there. That would be one of the contingency plans. So I wouldn't want him probably on the same team as Samuels, or I mean, sorry, as Connor. Samuels, that is, because if you're hoping that Connor gets less workload, gets hurt. We hate to say people get hurt, but maybe he's out for a little bit or whatever, and then Samuels gets the opportunity. That would work. If you want to play them together, then you say, all right, Connor's going to roll up to 2 or 3 touchdowns, and then Samuels is going to mop that up. This isn't the team where that happens against. But that would be the story you would want to tell. But I think Samuels is okay. I think he was in 7% of my lineup, so um, that's not really a lot because you kind of have most everybody in your lineups just because you're really looking at a viable 25 players, really, counting kickers, defenses, kick returners, etc. So
Sure. Sure. We got a few minutes to go here. Last minute advice. We got some last minute questions coming in. Interesting question. We oftentimes compare QB to QB or running back to running back. Question got posed here: Big Ben or Juju? There's a cost differential. There's also an ownership significant gap in ownership projections. Juju again coming in roughly 80%. Uh, of the leagues. I'm sorry, 70%. I misspoke there. Big Ben only at 35. So if you're making a play between Juju or Big Ben, who are you going with?
I would take Juju. I don't see Roethlisberger having a big game without Juju having a big game. I can see Juju being functional without Roth. If he gets everything that if he gets both of the touchdowns Roethlisberger throws tonight, he's going to be the best receiver. So that would be how I would do that line of demarcation. There. I mean, Roethlisberger was my 7th ranked player. The top 3 were kind of interchangeable in my opinion: Brady, Connor, and Juju. And then I put in Edelman, who you could probably put in the top 4. Then it was James White. Then it was Sony Michel, but I said, Fanduel, Draftkings, Fanduel. And then it was Ben Roethlisberger. And I had actually gone down through my first 13 before I remembered I hadn't written up Ben Roethlisberger.
So not very high on him.
Not very high. Ben treated me well. Gosh, 3 years ago it was I believe a Sunday night game or a Monday night game. It might have been Monday against Indianapolis, and he and Brown and Le'Veon all just went nuts. But that was a long time ago. That was then. This is now.
Yeah, that was with Le'Veon Bell, much different team. So we're not high on Ben, which probably means he'll go off for like 4 touchdowns tonight.
Yes.
Yeah. He'll have a Lamar Jackson game, tonight. So yeah, I'm excited. 2 minutes to go here before we close, before kickoff. EMAC, kind of thoughts going into tonight. Last minute advice for folks as they wrap up and get ready to enjoy their Sunday football.
Just remember to have fun. We've got a lot more football out there. Don't be too angry this week. People get better and better at this every year. That's why you need new and better information sources. That's why you're watching us, why you have our articles. Now, this is the free stuff in front of the paywall. We have some really good stuff behind the paywall. Again, we have the popularity projections and actual projections for the showdown slate in and of itself, which is very helpful. And they're slightly separate than full week projections, etc. If I understood the message correctly, but there are a lot of ways to go. We have a very vibrant Slack channel where we talk about a lot of different things. We strategize on what's happening with inactives. And the thing about these showdown slates, you just have to dig deeper and deeper and deeper into them to find that edge. Well, what's the best way to do that? You got a lot of people watching the games. We said this all the time with basketball. You can't see everything, but you have a lot of people watching their favorite teams and such. So you got people watching the games every night, and you find somebody turning their ankle at the free throw line with 30 seconds to go, and that doesn't get reported in Roto World, and then all of a sudden that person's a late scratch because the team didn't have shoot around that next day and all this, and you're like, why? How did I know that person was going to be out? There was no chance. Well, if somebody saw that, they mentioned it. And there you go. Now that's just one example, but that's where you would find, hey, who do you think is going to be active, inactive? Hey, you've been listening to local radio. They got the offensive line coach was talking about, hey, we're going to do such and such in this next game that doesn't get reported on the TV channels or whatever. It's those kinds of things that you're trying to turn over the stones for, and that's kind of where we are. Plus, it's fun in Slack. There's no better way to burn an hour at work than going into Slack, seeing somebody in the midst of some meltdown or inflammatory argument, and just watching. It's fun.
Yeah, nobody. You can never take your eyes off of a car crash, unfortunately, and that Slack channel is a good place to enjoy something like that.
Indeed, indeed. All right. Well, that was a pretty good wrap up there. You were worried we wouldn't have enough to talk about. There's always stuff to talk about. It's sports. It's fun. But we're going to wrap this one up. You will see Eric and I again next Sunday night, same time, same channel. And then tomorrow again, a little bit different because of that NFL doubleheader. So check our schedule. We're going to set up the official time, but we're going to talk football for that two-gamer. It starts at 7:10 is the kickoff for the first game, and I think it's 10:15 for the second game. There will be a little bit of an overlap potentially on those games, so check that out. We've got content for it, and we're going to post an article before we go to bed tonight. Nolan's writing the other half of the article, so we got all sorts of stuff there for you. And then we've got baseball, too, so definitely check that out. Shout out to Fantasydraft. Reminder, use the promo code OSMO and get 7 days to play through $1,000 of rake-free entries. And if you sign up, what I was telling people last week, if you signed up on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, you can really get 2 weeks in because you'll get 2 different football slates. So maybe don't race to sign up tomorrow, but sign up on Tuesday or Wednesday, and they'll have the contest posted for that second week after your current week is finishing up. So with that, gamers, we are going to get on out of here. Good luck.
Thanks, C-Mac. Everyone have a good evening. See you next week.